As a general college football fan, you may think that Clemson has no concerns with all that talent and with the championships under their belt playing in the ACC, that they've got it made. But there could be a concern or two to point out for the 2020 season. We got Ryan Cantor on the line to talk Clemson football. Ryan, how are you doing tonight?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Of course. So this has been the program that has arguably produced the best wide receivers, not just at the collegiate level, but then transitioning to the NFL in terms of production at the next level over the past 6 or 7 years. But you lose two excellent ones. And of course, Justin Ross, the unexpected loss due to injury, T. Higgins moving on to the next level. So the wide receiver position, though heavily and well recruited, still may have a few issues.
Yeah, no. Clemson's definitely sort of made their mark at wide receiver, branded themselves as wide receiver U even. You think back to that 2018 season's national championship game against Alabama, and really those are wide receivers making plays, jumping over guys, kind of making those one-handed crazy grabs that just really sort of took over the game and led to Clemson blowing out Alabama. Last year, even against Ohio State, even though they won, the receivers didn't quite do the same. And then against LSU, they struggled. And now I think things get tougher. I mean, losing T. Higgins, who was the first pick of the second round, ironically, he'll go play with for the Bengals with Joe Burrow, who they just played. So he's gone. And I think Clemson fans felt fine about it because they felt like Justin Ross was going to step up, rising upperclassman, rising junior. This was his time to shine. And then they find out he's got a shoulder issue, a defect that required surgery, out for the season. So now kind of both alpha kind of receivers, both guys that you could just throw it up to, expect them to win jump balls, both of them are gone. Someone's really going to have to step up.
So T. Higgins caught 59, the number that really jumps out. If you look at the guys that can make game-changing plays, stretch the field, 20 yards per reception for T. Higgins last year, 13 touchdowns. Justin Ross coming off a 1,000-yard freshman season, in which he didn't play a whole lot or produce early in that season, and really down the stretch really was a great player, 66 catches last year and 8 touchdowns. So Amari Rodgers becomes the obvious choice in regards to previous production to step into the number one role, kind of round out how the wide receiver looks. Could be 3 and 4 wide.
Yeah, so I think Amari Rodgers, he's obviously going to play a huge role in that. He had a torn ACL. He came back last season. Was expected to miss most of the year, but rehabbed really quickly. Had a really good recovery. Was back in time for the Syracuse game, which was fairly early in the year. Actually had a pretty electrifying touchdown in that game. And he was good all year, playing with a knee brace and whatnot. But obviously, he's playing, coming off that injury. So opportunity for him to step up, but really he's not. He's like the alpha receiver I was saying before. He's a shorter guy, more in the mold of like an Artavis Scott, as Clemson fans will remember. So he's definitely a great player, but he's not really the type of guy you're going to throw a jump ball to. So someone else is going to have to step up, and I think you're probably looking at Joseph Ngata. Was a freshman last year, big time 5-star guy out of California, and or Frank Ladson out of Florida. One of the two, preferably both, but one of the two is probably going to have to step up to be that guy at Clemson's quote 9 position at wide receiver. And Amari Rodgers will start, but I think it's just a different role.
Ngata caught 17 last year, 240 yards at 14 per catch, 3 touchdowns. I remember seeing a lot of Ladson during the spring. Did he not play at all last season?
He played some, but he certainly he's a faster guy. Needed to maybe put on some weight. Ngata might have been a little bit ahead of him last year, but I think this year they kind of got that power. And well, they're both 6'3", but it's kind of a power speed combo. So the two of them really complement each other well and can both be out on the field at the same time potentially.
So certainly a reasonable point to make there, considering Amari Rodgers, if you're just looking at who's next in line, who's produced, but not the guy to play that number one role and be just the alpha dog. 30 catches last year, 4 touchdowns, but he certainly has a role in this offense, especially with missing Ross and Higgins. We got Ryan Cantor on the line looking at Clemson football for 2020. Hoping for a season, hoping for some reasonable semblance of a season, whether that includes non-conference games or not. Clemson, the offensive line loses 4 starters, 2 go off to the NFL. The recruiting there, we could make the same statement toward any unit on the field, but even the offensive line recruiting has been much better in recent years to that elite level. And what does the complement of the offensive front look like?
Yeah, so 4 guys are gone. John Simpson, a guard, is gone. He was a 4th-round pick to the Raiders. Tremaine Ankrum, the right tackle, he's gone. He was a 7th-round pick to the Rams. And then Sean Pollard and Gage Cervenka, who are both very good, also gone. So replacing 4 guys is really tough. Jackson Carman, the left tackle from Ohio, he's excellent. He's back, so that certainly helps. But placing 4 offensive linemen is a tall task. Fortunately, Clemson, and you could blame their weak schedule, but I think a lot of it is coaching philosophy. They work in a lot of backups. So fortunately, the guys who are now the starters are fairly experienced. Matt Bockhorst, Cade Stewart, and Jordan McFadden are all expected to be starters, and they got a ton of snaps. Will Putnam, who's a big-time recruit, he was supposed to go to Florida State, and this is when things were extremely tumultuous there. They lost him, I believe, on the same day, I think within a few hours of losing Sam Howell, the quarterback now for UNC. So it was a bad time for Florida State, but we got him, or Clemson got him, and he's expected to start. Not quite as experienced as those other guys, but pretty highly touted. So the depth is gone, that's for sure. But I think that the folks who are rising up to become starters are primed to rise to the occasion.
Got Ryan Cantor on the line to talk Clemson football. Yes, there are concerns for Dabo Swinney and his staff as we approach 2020. Not all is perfect on the roster, despite, of course, elite recruiting and development there for the, what are we looking at? 2 national championships here since 2016 and another appearance or 2. Yes, all college football playoff appearances since 2015, of course, and right there with the best record in college football, razor close with Alabama and Ohio State over the past decade and the past 5 years. All right. We've talked offensive line. We've talked wide receivers. We've just had this discussion, Ryan, in regards to the tight end position being paramount in the Clemson offense years ago, but not recently, and whether that needs to change. And considering the wide receiver concerns, maybe it needs to change.
Yeah, so Braden Galloway, who was suspended all of last year, up until the playoffs for the Osterine test the year prior, is back. We saw him a little bit in that national championship game. He looked pretty darn good. And I think with what you see leaving at Clemson at wide receiver, he's in a position where he could very well win the starting job. I expect him to win the starting job at tight end. And I think he could help over the middle and in kind of winning some of those jump balls. So I think he could play a big role in filling the void, the Justin Ross injury and the T. Higgins early departure to the NFL draft, those voids that were left from that. So I think he's a key X factor for the Tigers, Braden Galloway, tight end.
Always appreciate the conversation on Clemson football, Ryan.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.